another edition of your one-on-one interview. I am your host, Demba. Still on the same topic on why people move from one political party to another. Today, I am with a then member of the GDC and now to NPP. Let me allow him to do the honors of introducing himself.
Thank you, Mrs. Ba, and good to have you in your program. My name is Dr. Demba Sabally, as you rightly said, was in GDC as a national chairman, and happily now in NPP as the second deputy national president.
Please give us just a short history about how you started with GDC.
Well, we started GDC from 2016, and in 2016 I went to Baobab when I heard about the formation of GDC, and I consulted with a few individuals, and I was interested to see the party leader and then hear from them what the programs are. I went to Baobab and I personally met the party leader of GDC in 2016, and after a brief discussion I was impressed with the programs presented, and that was do whatever it takes to democratically remove a sitting government and installed a GDC government. This was in 2016, and we started our support both morally, financially, and physically, and that's how we got involved into GDC, and we rose through the ranks.
Well, that is really interesting. So right now, what actually motivated you to move from GDC to NPP?
I guess you are the luckiest journalist, because I've never answered these questions since December 2020 when I moved to NPP. But for the first time, I will explicitly come and answer this question for you. While I was in GDC, I had a set of principles. I, as an individual, first before politics, I have a set of beliefs, and those are core in my work. While I was in GDC, a few things, and I break them down to 4, are the principal reasons that necessitated my move from GDC to NPP. First was the 3 years Jotna. When the 3 years Jotna event occurred here, my core belief is, even though I was not NPP, I was not President Barrow supporter at that time, but I had always believed in the 5 years. And at that time, I was the national chairman of GDC, and we called a meeting of the national executive to take a position and say, okay, this is GDC's position as far as 3 years, 5 years Jotna is concerned. Our position then officially was, 1, we do not get involved. We are not supporting 3 years or the 5 years. And if government chooses to call election after 3 years, we are happy to participate. If the government continues during their mandate up to the end of the 5 years, fine. Then we will come into the election and then contest. This was the official position. And we had in fact instructed our PRO then to write a press release in that regard. That press release was never written, and it was cancelled behind the scene, and that did not settle down well with me. And again, there were members of the GDC executive who went to the 3 years march, but they were never cautioned. However, Keba Jallo, who is a member of parliament on the GDC ticket from Jara Central, was coming from Banjul during the 5-year march, and he has a pickup. Some individuals joined his pickup on his way home. Just because he was passing and people joined his vehicle, he was called for cautioning that he went to support the 5 years. Meaning that the party, 1, suppressed the press release, which didn't sit well with me. 2, why didn't the party or the leadership caution the individuals who went to the 3-year Jotna protest? They were left alone, but an individual who was just passing was cautioned. So for me, I thought, okay, I think these people are swaying more towards supporting the 3 years instead of being neutral, or the 5 years. For me, in my heart, I support 5 years. But if the party's position is to be neutral, I'll be neutral, but I can never support 3 years. Then came the issue of the draft constitution. I had issues with the draft constitution personally. And during the meeting, we outlined all our issues. But we said we are not going to take a position as far as this is concerned. However, I personally, since the party did not take a position, I did not support the draft constitution. And I made it clear on my Facebook wall. I wrote it down. And after the voting in the National Assembly, when it was voted down, I did write on my page too, showing my happiness, and I even congratulated the MPs who voted it down. I was called by the party hierarchy, and then they said my opinion go contrary to the party opinion, and as a result, that did not sit down well with them. And this made me furious because one, I was the national chairman. There was no meeting where the GDC decided that they are supporting the draft constitution or they are not supporting it. And nobody in that party today will present any document to say this was the position of the party. And a meeting was called and a position was not obtained. Since a position was not obtained, I had to go with my instinct, and I did not support it, and I made it very clear. But the fact that I was called for cautioning means that position did not sit well with them. So this became like a cascade of events. Then we came into the issue of the Nyamina by-election. Anybody who knows me very well or who have been following me on Facebook knows that I am an ardent opponent of UDP. In fact, a serious opponent of UDP as UDP. So I was the first person that was approached by UDP to support GDC during the by-election. In fact, they came to my pharmacy. I said, okay, I will present this agenda to the executive meeting, which I did. And during the meeting, I have living witnesses. Salifu Pui, former governor of LRR, is a living witness. I said, even if we are going to accept the help or aid from UDP, let us be the one to manage the help. Let them not come and control our campaign or drive our vehicle. When I mean vehicle, I mean our campaign. Unfortunately, what happened in Nyamina, we all saw it. The GDC callers were so intermingled with the UDP callers that people were not even sure which party is presenting a candidate. When I got to the Pakaliba Bridge, I met our GDC candidate with a UDP cap, and honestly, he is still alive. I told him, Mr. Jallo, please, I demand with respect you remove this cap. You are representing GDC. To have a UDP cap, for me, is not acceptable. So that was the beginning of seriously considering the fact that I may be in the wrong place now, given what I said, A, B, and C. So we were in the campaign in Nyamina, and what happened there, we've all seen it. So that did not sit well with me and with many other people who I knew were diehard GDC supporters. The rumor about GDC being in bed with UDP was rife in the country. And I think that action in Nyamina was a confirmation. Whether true or not, perception is very, very relevant in politics. And this perception was almost confirmed by the action there. So after the Nyamina election, seriously, I had doubts whether my core beliefs are not being violated. And then finally, wrap all these three things together. My main reason for exit was my desire, in fact, my lifetime goal, to make sure there is no UDP government in this country in my lifetime. In fact, it's a lifetime goal that there is no UDP government in the Gambia in my lifetime. So, seeing the closeness of GDC towards UDP, it was time for me to go and support President Barrow to make sure UDP does not win the election in this country. In fact, it's my main attraction to go and support President Barrow and NPP. Anything else that came after that was what I have seen during my time in NPP. But my desire to support President Barrow and make sure UDP does not become a government is one of the catalysts.
Let's say that's exceptional as to the reasons why you left GDC to NPP. Let's just go back a little bit. Talking of the 3 years and the 5 years, yes, you said the press release was not issued, and you were supporting 5 years, even though you did not show it. So, okay, here, what would I say? Would it be you're considering the people more, or you're considering your personal interests?
My support for the 5 years is a principle that is just democratic. Even if it wasn't President Barrow as the president, as much as I don't like UDP, even if UDP were the government, I would have respected the 5 years. So for me, it is the constitutional belief that the constitution says 5 years, and I went to vote in 2016, and I voted for whoever I voted for was to be there for 5 years. So whether it was President Barrow, it was whoever was president, I want us to respect what the constitution said and stay with the 5 years. That was a core belief, and I stay with that.
You made mention of the draft constitution again, which is really a very important point, or a very important talking point within the country, and many people, especially Gambians, were yearning for actually a constitutional change, because as far as I could remember, it was part of the coalition's manifesto by then. Immediately after ousting President Jammeh out, they would come in for constitutional review, because they believe anything within the constitution was just to favor the former president, Mr. Jammeh. So why is it that you did not support that, bearing in mind many people were actually yearning for constitutional change?
I was in a delegation that were involved in the drafting of this constitution as it is. But look, 90% of the things that Gambians said to the commission is not what we found at the end of the day. There are key things in that constitution that, for me, I could not support. And if the majority of the Gambian people support it, I am a fervent believer of democracy and majority rule. I would have respected it. But in that constitution, it said to impeach a president, you only need 50% of the parliamentarians. Only 50%. And in that constitution, to impeach a high court judge, you need 75% of the parliamentarians. In which world have we got to where a high court judge is more important than the president of the republic, who is elected by the entire country? A high court judge is appointed by that same president that you could easily remove by 50%. Where already during that time, UDP almost had that 50% of parliamentarians. So if that had passed, they could have impeached him the next day. But they could not impeach a high court judge.
Because UDP was almost 50%, and you never wanted UDP to form any form of a government or to win in any way. That is the reason why you backed off the draft constitution.
I will repeat this. Even if UDP, as much distaste I have for them, were the government, I wouldn't have supported removing their president by 50% of the MPs. I will only support removing a president at a higher threshold, at least a threshold that is acceptable internationally. Some of us have lived most of our life in the West, in the US or in Europe. The fathers of democracy, where India, the largest democracy, or the oldest, which is the United States, you don't remove a sitting president by 50% of the votes. So those experts who were in that CRC, which constitution were they quoting from? So for us, for me, it was unacceptable for the president to be removed by 50%, regardless of who was the president. So it was not about UDP or President Barrow or whoever. It was just unacceptable to remove a president by 50% of the MPs, but you need 75% of the MPs to remove a high court judge. But again, the worst, in fact, is in that constitution, the president cannot remove the Inspector General of Police. The president cannot remove the commander of the army. Look, the president of the United States fires and hires the director of FBI. The president of the United States fires and hires the chief of defense staff of the United States. Where have we gotten to in this country where the president cannot fire the Inspector General of Police? What kind of country were we going to have then? If the IG is not answerable to the president, the Secretary General and Head of Civil Service is not answerable to the president, the CDS cannot be fired by the president, how many presidents will we have in this country had we passed that constitution? So personally, I couldn't support that constitution. And I made it known on my wall that as it is unacceptable.
What actually motivated you to join NPP? Is it their manifesto or what exactly?
Thank you very much. Very, very good question, and a very usual question for that matter. One, the demeanor of the president. I have never attended an NPP rally. I've never been to President Barrow. I've never even met him before that day. But I've been observing him anyway. As a citizen, in fact, if you are in the opposition, the best opposition is the one who pays attention to what government do. So while I was in opposition, I was paying serious attention to what president is doing and what president's party is doing. So his demeanor was great for me. I mean, he looked mellow, so that was okay. He looked very harmless. And again, he looked very tolerant. Looking from the outside, I've been into platforms where I spoke against him. Issues politically that could be damaging. When I was in the GDC, I spoke at rallies. There are so many things we accuse him of. There are so many things we say of a president and a government as an opposition. In fact, his tolerance is one of the reasons why I personally has a liking for him. He is very tolerant. And we have all seen that you in the media houses especially, I guess today you have about 35 media houses in this country, when you were less than 7. So thanks to his tolerance.
Now you're in NPP. What exactly are you expecting?
A lot of stuff I am expecting in NPP, and a lot of stuff has happened in NPP and President Barrow government. What I expect is, one, as we are right now, a very peaceful, except a few hinges by some UDP hooligans in the registration process. We expect a very peaceful registration, and then go into a very peaceful campaign, just as preached by our party leader, President Barrow, and then go into an election and a victory in December 4th.
How would your join to NPP help to stop UDP from acquiring power in the next election?
If you are paying attention during the tour, you probably have seen our effects. And if you are following us on the social media, 2-3 weeks ago, we were at North Bank. I spoke at 2 rallies in North Bank, which was Mbolet Bar and the other one in Opanyomi. And yesterday I was in Sambuya. And last week I was in Bagadaji and in Tumana, a village called this village in Kundam Demba and Kundam Fulakunda. So since 2016, there is no constituency in this country that I have not stepped foot on politically. So that experience and that zeal and the desire to get results is what I bring to NPP. My goal is to go down and meet the people and sell the President Barrow and NPP agenda, and that is what I am doing. And that agenda is the Gambian agenda. That is the agenda of development, agenda of coexistence, and agenda of peace. Because that is what President Barrow has. He is peaceful, and he has at least established peace in this country. And President Barrow has created the environment where people coexist. Unlike what you have seen when UDP was just, I don't know, vice president or few ministries. How many land crashes have you seen in Combo here, in Nyamina, in URR? I mean, they are everywhere. During this registration, did you see any political party that had a group with black going around harassing individuals? Except UDP. So if they are an opposition and they can be this arrogant or this harassing to individuals, they consider foreigners. And by the time of their birth, probably those foreigners were at their naming ceremonies. What do you think they will be able to do if they are a government? So for the sake of this country, for the sake of our children and grandchildren, we must do whatever it takes to make sure we don't have a UDP government in our lifetime.
So how were you able to identify those people wearing black on the street with regards to the voter registration as UDP members?
Oh, Ibrahim Demba is a member of the UDP Central Executive. He's in that group. And in fact, those people in that group, they are known to everybody. I mean, it's not like they are masking their face. Their face is open. They had a meeting at Manja. The pictures are everywhere on the social media. So it's like, look, it's like if I go out there, why would you ask, how do you know if Dr. Sabally is MPP? It's obvious. So of course they are UDP. And it's the only party that has formed a group going around harassing people during this registration. Honestly, and I said it, if they disagree, they know where the High Court is. They can find me there.
What would you have to say to the people with regards to the voter registration and upcoming election as you're closing the bank?
What I will tell Gambian people is one thing. Let them come out in droves. Let them not feel intimidated. This is our country. And the only thing you have as a voice is your voter's card. Any Gambian, whether you live in the Gambia or you live in Senegal, or you live in Mauritania or you live in Mali, if you can get yourself here, come, register yourself, get your voter's card, and on the day of election, come back to the Gambia, go and vote for President Adama Barrow for the sake of peace for yourself, your children, and your grandchildren, and for the Gambia.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sabally, for joining me today. That was really a fruitful discussion and a detailed one for that matter. As he just said, I'm lucky for him to answer certain questions that he haven't answered for some months or years, I would say. That brings us to the end of today's segment on your one-on-one interview on Press Delay TV. I was your host, Aisatuba. Do enjoy.